Good morning, everyone from Waterdeep, Neverwinter, Baldur's Gate, and beyond. And welcome to the second annual run of the Great Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl. I'm your host for this event, Nathan Nate Dog Stabfellow, and joining me today for this spectacular event is my co-host as always, Tanner Tan Man Shadow Corner.
That's right, Nathan, and I am quite excited to be here. For those just now joining us for the first time, scrying through their orbs at home or through my soul, allow us to give you all brief insight into what the Waterdeep Dragon Crawl is about.
For sure, Tan Man. 3 years ago, the city of Neverwinter brought back the High Sun Games in a decision that, at the time, was quite controversial.
Now the people scrying might be wondering, what made the decision controversial?
I'm glad you asked, Tanner. I honestly have no idea. The High Sun Games are fun to watch and earn the city lots of gold every year.
Truer words have never been spoken, Nathan. The High Sun Games made tons of gold for the city of Neverwinter when it was brought back and quickly turned Neverwinter into a tourist spot for people across this and many other planes.
Did you say other planes?
I did say other planes. After coming back, the High Sun Games were such a hit, the event brought creatures not just from our lands across the ocean, but from other planes such as the Feywilds and Shadowfell as well. It was this success that inspired the Lord's Alliance to expand the High Sun Games across Baldur's Gate and Waterdeep the following year with their own unique events.
Now that we're all caught up, Tan Man, do you care to explain to us what the Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl is all about?
Of course, Nate Dog. We have several teams of adventurers who signed up for this event ready to take on the Yawning Portal, Waterdeep's most famous dungeon found inside the tavern of the same name.
And as any seasoned adventurer knows, the walls of the Yawning Portal are an ever-changing labyrinth designed to challenge those who enter.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Nathan. Inside the Yawning Portal, we had our most experienced event organizers plan an intricate gold statue in the shape of a sun somewhere on one of the lower floors. The first team to find the statue and successfully escape the dungeon with at least one team member still alive wins this year's dungeon crawl and receives a plethora of items donated generously by several of our sponsors for the game.
Speaking of, before we get to our reporter on the field, this year's Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl is sponsored by the Von Holtz Accounting Agency. Now let's cut to the scene of the event with our on-field reporter, Red Wizard Trey. You're on, Trey.
He knows.
Thank you, Nathan! I'm here live with the adventurers for this event, just as they're preparing to climb down the hole into the Yawning Portal to kick off the dungeon crawl. Tell me, can we get your names and what role you serve the party?
Of course, I'm Jade River Lotus, a Selric serving under the Unicorn Queen LaRue. I specialize in healing magic mostly, but I do have spells prepared for battle if I need to fight.
Rick the Bruiser. That's my name. I bruise people. That's how I got my name.
Very interesting. And what is your primary strategy as you two traverse the dungeon? How do you plan on dealing with the monsters and other contestants as you make your way down the various floors?
Bruise them.
And I plan on playing support mostly, keeping Brick and I healed up with my magic.
And does your team have a name?
No, we didn't.
Well, thank you, Team No. I am excited to watch your progress through the Yawning Portal. While Team No prepares to delve into this dungeon, let's check up on some of our other teams on the...
Thank you, Red Wizard Trey, for your excellent field report. We will continue bringing you more live updates for the Dungeon Crawl shortly, but first, a word from our sponsors.
This year's Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl is brought to you by the Wizards of the Valley.
With that out of the way, and as our adventurers begin to delve into the dungeon, how about we share more insight and break down exactly how the Dungeon Crawl works?
Very good idea, Nathan. You see, dear scryers, the dungeon has been broken down into 4 segments with 3 checkpoints along the way. These checkpoints are monster-free safe rooms that our contestants can use for short rests if they need it. In fact, I'm getting reports that 2 of the teams are already making quick work of the first few floors of the dungeon and are about to make it to the first checkpoint now.
Wow, already? Those teams are making quick work of the first section. Do we know which 2 groups are about to reach the checkpoint?
In fact, we do, Nate Dog. Our 2 teams... What? Mimics? All of them? I just got an update that one of those teams, Oops All Kobolds, has just been eliminated, as all 3 of their team members were defeated by a Mimic, which means that Team No is the first team to reach the first checkpoint.
More like oops, no kobolds, am I right? Well, let's check in with our field reporter with Team No at the checkpoint. Red Wizard Trey, you're on. Do we need to check the connection?
Thank you, Nathan. I am here at checkpoint 1 of the dungeon with our leading team, Team No. Team No, how are we feeling about the dungeon crawl so far?
I killed mimics. They were easy fodder.
I think we're doing great so far. If the rest of this dungeon is as easy as the first few floors, well, I think we'll get this done in no time.
Oh, trust me, it only gets harder from here. I should know. I helped design the next trek of the dungeon between here and checkpoint 2.
Well then, care to share a little bit about what we should expect going down the next few floors?
Nope. Good luck out there, Team No. Well, that's the updates here at checkpoint 1. Back to you two at the studio, Tanner and Nathan.
So I don't know if it was like ghost possession or something like that, but...
Nathan, we're back on.
Oh, thank you, Trey. While the dungeon crawl continues, how about we get some updates on the other teams making their way through the yawning portal?
Sure thing, Nathan. As we already said, Team No is in the lead, followed closely behind by the Mighty Nine, who decided to skip the first checkpoint altogether to try and catch up.
Wow, they must be confident in their skills to skip the first checkpoint.
They aren't the only ones who did, Nathan. Several other teams skipped the checkpoint as well. I'm being told by my Eldritch patron, who sees all, that several teams have made it to the second section of the dungeon crawl, including the Order of the Rangers, the Wild Magic Maniacs, and the 3 Musketeers, and the Flaming 5.
How exciting! And does your Eldritch patron who sees all know which teams have been eliminated so far?
What a silly question. Of course he does. As we know, Oops All Kobolds have been eliminated because of a Mimic, but they aren't the only ones. We also lost the teams, the Shadowbolts, and the Knights of the Legion of Super Awesome and Super Powerful Men.
That is certainly a mouthful of a name there.
I agree, and I'm glad I won't be saying that ever again. Anyways, we're getting multiple updates in the dungeon, but before we get to that, a word from our sponsors.
Right. This part of the Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl is brought to you in part by an independent sponsor, Strahd von Zarevich, all the way from Barovia, where... Tanner, do you know where that is?
In fact, I do, Nathan. Barovia was once part of our own material plane. However, over 100 years ago, it was removed and casted away by the Dark Forces who...
Right. Well, as part of one of our sponsors, not only has Strahd donated an ancient, unopened bottle of authentic Barovian wine, but he also donated traps to be put in this part of the dungeon crawl.
Fascinating. This part of the Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl is also sponsored by the Is this right? He's no criminal. Oh, okay. This part of the Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl is also sponsored in part by the Xanathar's Thieves Guild. If you need loot to be found, or need someone to disappear for a while, or forever, contact the Xanathar's Thieves Guild located somewhere in the sewers of Waterdeep. Now with those sponsors out of the way, what are the updates for our contestants in the dungeon?
I'm glad you asked, Tan Man. It seems like the 3 Musketeers stumbled into the room in the dungeon housing, what I believe to be a sarcophagus made of amber, and upon touching it, they were whisked away to some other plane of existence by a dark, foreboding mist.
Oh, as you know, traveling to another plane of existence, willingly or not, is against the rules. So that means, even if they come back, the 3 Musketeers are eliminated via disqualification.
That's not all. I am just now being told the Order of the Rangers have been all petrified while fighting a Gorgon.
Did you say all of them?
I did say all of them.
Well, that means, unfortunately, the Order of the Rangers has been eliminated. However, I am hearing from the voice of my Eldritch patron that one of the teams has made it to the second checkpoint, which means we'll cut to Red Wizard Trey on the field with that team now.
Thank you, Tanner. I'm here at checkpoint 2 with Team No. Team No, how are you doing so far in the dungeon crawl?
I saw rangers turn to stone. We passed the Gorgon easily.
I will admit,
I'm sorry, Trey. I'm getting breaking news that a mind flayer has crawled its way out from the Underdark and is now skulking around in the dungeons.
I thought we had all of the holes between us and the Underdark sealed for this event.
Apparently not, and we can't exactly shut down the games to take care of this problem.
So what now?
Now, well, the Mind Flayer is in the dungeon, so it has technically become an obstacle for the contestants of the dungeon crawl to overcome.
An exciting twist, and that, folks, is why you should tune in to the Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl. You'll never know what to expect. Back to you, Trey.
Team No, I just received breaking news that a Mind Flayer has somehow just entered the Yawning Portal's lower levels. Will this affect your approach at all to the rest of the dungeon?
No, we smash obstacles in our way. The Mind Flayer has just become another obstacle.
We didn't smash the Gorgon, though.
Gorgon was sleeping. Wouldn't have been a fair fight.
Right. Well, I now plan on preparing some slightly more powerful utility spells to aid us as we progress, just in case we run into the Mind Flayer.
Finally, how do you feel knowing that while you're sitting in this room right now, you have just been passed by the Flaming Five and the Mighty Nine, who skipped the checkpoint to continue deeper into the dungeon?
Wait, what? Does that put us in last place now?
Well, no. There's still the Wild Magic Maniacs who are lagging behind in last place, and... I'm now being told that the Wild Magic Maniacs just exploded, eliminating them and putting you two in last place. How do you feel?
Wait, what? Exploded?
It doesn't matter. We will beat the other teams. I am confident of that.
All right, well, Team No, while you prepare to head back out into the dungeon, let's get back to you, Tanner and Nathan.
Thank you, Trey.
To recap a little as the groups head into the third segment of the dungeon, we had 10 teams enter and now are down to our final 3.
Hold on now, Nathan. I've been keeping track as the games went along, and 6 teams have been eliminated, which means if we're down to the final 3, it was actually 9 teams that entered.
Your Eldritch patron might be all-seeing, but clearly isn't all-knowing, Tan Man. See, there was actually one extra team that went into the event and managed to make it to the sun statue before everyone else.
Interesting. What happened to them?
Well, while they were about to grab the statue, they sprung a trap in the dungeon, summoning a fey creature which, in a clever game of wordplay, stole the existence of the entire team, effectively erasing them from our timeline and eliminating them from the game.
Wow, how unfortunate. So wait a minute. How do you still remember them?
I don't know.
Well then, as the teams make their way through the dungeon, let's hear another quick word from our sponsors.
This part of the Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl is sponsored by Lance Publishing House, funded by the mysterious journalist and wizard, Lance.
I am going to have to stop you right there, Nathan. I'm receiving breaking news that the Flaming Five have actually encountered the Mind Flayer. We currently do have exclusive access to scrying eyes observing the battle. However, it is so graphic that we think it's best that we just describe the scene instead.
It is indeed graphic. It seems the Flaming Five have surrounded the Mind Flayer and are currently trying to use their numbers to make it harder for the Mind Flayer to pick a single target to take out.
But it looks like... What is the Mind Flayer doing? Raising its arms?
It seems to be lifting 3 of the members of the Flaming Five and summoning... Oh my goodness.
It seems the Mind Flayer has taken 3 members of the Flaming Five and used its psychic powers to turn their brains into intellect devourers. I didn't even know that was possible, and now it looks like it... Oh my gosh.
I have never seen a torso bend that way before.
Those eyes flew out of their sockets so fast.
This is horrifying.
I can't believe what I'm seeing. The Flaming Five have tragically been eliminated. But wait, here comes the Mighty Nine to take out the Mind Flayer, and the 3 Intellect Devourers that used to be 3 members of the Flaming Five team.
Wow. I guess that's why they're called the Mighty. They took out that Mind Flayer with ease.
I am also hearing that while the 2 groups were fighting the Mind Flayer, Team No had just snuck past them and made it to the 3rd and final checkpoint in the dungeon.
Is that so? Well then let's cut to Red Wizard Trey on the field with Team No at the checkpoint. Red Wizard Trey, you're on! Are we experiencing technical difficulties?
No, I believe that someone casted a zone of silence over the checkpoint 3, and they aren't aware. Trey, we can't hear you.
Trey, you're in a zone of silence?
Trey,
Can we get someone to dispel that, please? Thank you.
Meat paste. Lots and lots of meat paste.
Yeah, meat paste and dried fruit as well.
What an insightful look into what it's like doing dungeon crawling full time. I'm sure people scrying at home will love all of that valuable advice you just shared, especially the ones who might be interested in making a career out of dungeoneering.
So, can we ask who's left in the dungeon crawl other than us?
Why, sure. Jade your last name is confusing. Why, right now it is down to you and the Mighty Nine to see who will get the statue and be crowned the winner of this year's Great Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl.
Well then, good luck to the members of the Mighty Nan. May the best team win.
Which is us.
Yeah, which is us.
All right, well, it's Mighty Nine. As the last two teams make their way to the final trek of the dungeon, we'll head back to our hosts giving us the live updates, Nathan and Tanner.
Thank you once again, Trey. Now, Tanner, I have to ask, as the final two teams make their way into what is essentially the home stretch of the dungeon crawl, who do you think is going to win?
that is an excellent question, Nathan. Now, as you may know, the Mighty Nine are very famous as a group of adventurers, well known for literally saving the world multiple times. However, Team No has proven so far in the event that they're no slouchers, managing to make it all the way to the last segment of the dungeon.
So I ask again, who do you think is going to win?
As far as I'm concerned, between these two teams, it could be anybody's victory.
You know I don't like that answer, Tanner, so I'll ask you again, who do you think is going to win?
Well,
Pick a team, Tanner.
I think that the Mighty Nine might have this if I have to pick. They are the most experienced of the two teams when it comes to handling dangerous situations. What about you, Nathan?
I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, between these two teams, it could be anybody's victory.
I like that answer. All right, let's check in with our scrying orbs and see what's happening on the field.
It looks like both the Mighty Nine and Team No have nearly made it into the room where our event organizers put the sun statue.
Oh, it looks like they just locked eyes and are now preparing for battle. Oh, and what a devastating attack from the Mighty Nine.
Wow, that's gotta hurt.
This is a brutal match here.
It's amazing how a team of only two can hold their ground so well against probably the most seasoned group of adventurers to ever participate in the dungeon crawl. Wait, Tanner, are you seeing what I'm seeing?
I am, Nathan. It looks like Team Oops All Kobolds must have survived their encounter with the Mimic, somehow all the way back in Floor 1. They have the sun statue in their hands and are currently sneaking past the ensuing battle.
How is that even possible? The Mimic swallowed those kobolds whole.
Look on that one's finger. A ring of teleportation?
I see the ring. Those three kobolds must have found that ring of teleportation inside the Mimic and used it to escape.
It looks like the other teams have just now noticed the kobolds and have begun making chase. But wait! Ooh, it looks like in their haste, the Mighty Nine sprung a trap and exploded. The whole team just exploded.
Well, it's safe to say they probably won't be coming back next season.
And look, the explosion incapacitated Brick the Bruiser from Team No. Jade River Lotus, which is a very easy name to say, actually, Trey, has to make a choice here. She can either stop the kobolds and secure the win for herself, or help her team member, potentially losing the statue and the dungeon crawl.
Let's see what she does.
It looks like she decided to save her companion, which has just given the kobolds enough time to use the ring and escape the dungeon, which means Team Oops All Kobolds, in a surprise victory, just won the game.
I bet no one was expecting that twist.
It's like I always say, Nate Dogg, anything can happen during the Great Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl. Let's join Red Wizard Trey on the field as he interviews Team No about the upsetting loss for them.
Wait, Team No, why aren't they interviewing the winners?
Thank you, Nathan. I'm sitting here with Team No, who just lost the Great Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl in an upset against Team Oops All Kobolds, who, let's be honest, we all thought died in the first segment of the dungeon. Team No, how do you feel about being the only surviving team that I can ask about how they feel about losing?
What?
How do you feel that you just lost to Team Oops All Kobolds?
You know, Trey, I have to say I respect them for their victory. They made a bold decision letting themselves be eaten by a mimic.
I don't think that was a choice.
And that really paid off for them. They got the statue and escaped with it. Good job, little kobolds.
And do you two plan on joining us when the High Sun Games come around next year for the next Great Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, maybe.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm Red Wizard Trey, and I have been your field reporter for this exciting event. Back to you, Nathan and Tanner.
Thank you, Trey, for your excellent field reporting. You're right, it has been an exciting event this year, hasn't it, Tanner?
That it has, Nathan. That it has. I wanted to thank all 10 teams who participated in this year's Great Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl, as well as everyone who decided to tune in and follow along with today's events. Until next time, I'm Tanner Shadow Corner.
And I'm Nathan Stabfellow.
And have a good rest of your day, Waterdeep.
And with that, we conclude this episode of Dungeon Anthology, The Great Waterdeep Dungeon Crawl. Today's episode was written by Tanner Smith, with additional writing and edits provided by myself. This episode featured myself and Tanner Smith as Nathan Stabfellow and Tanner Shadow Corner, respectively, as well as Trey Hebert as Red Wizard Trey, Bryn Baker as Jade River Lotus, and Ryan Foland as Brick the Bruiser. Thank you to RiotRadio.ca for making this show possible. You can find us on social media at Dungeon Anthology. Thank you for listening, and have a great day and a great weekend.